It is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the regular City Council meeting for Minnetrista, December 5th, 2022. First, a reminder, if you have cell phones with you, please turn them on silent or airplane mode so they don't disrupt the meeting here. And then second, would you please join me in Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome, everyone. We have some very special guests with us this evening. We have Aria. Hi, Aria. And we have Ainsley. Hi, Ainsley. And we also have little Lennon. So welcome, little ones. This is a special meeting tonight. This is Pam's, Councilmember Mortenson's last meeting of her term. Her term expires the end of December. Councilmember Chumperlin was also supposed to be here, but because of some health issues, was not able to join us tonight. So first of all, I'll make some introductions besides the little ones. I'm Lisa Whalen, I'm the mayor, and to my left are council members, Pam Mortenson, Ann McGregor, Kathleen Refkin, and then on the end we have our city engineer with WSB, Allison Fauski, our director of public works, Gary Peters, city clerk is Don Motzko, and then to my right I have city administrator Jasper Krugel, Brian Grimm is our finance director, David Abel is our community development director, and Sarah Sansala is our attorney with Kennedy and Graven, and then our chief of police, Paul Falls. With that, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Mortenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. So this evening, as I said, it's a little special night. We're going to start out with a recognition of Pam and John. I invited our former city administrator, Mike Baroni, to join us this evening, and I think he would like to say a few words. You can take longer than 3 minutes.
No pressure. Thank you, Mayor Whalen, and good evening to you and to the council members and the city staff. It's kind of weird standing here instead of sitting over there with Jasper's not seated. It's good to be back. I'm glad I'm not back, actually. It's good to be back to say hi to all of you. I want to just take a minute to congratulate Pam and to John, who's not here, for a job well done. I know that it's a hard job, and I think I was talking with Peter earlier, and I told him congratulations on his victory to be a council member. I said, it's not a hard job, but at least it's a thankless job. So, and that's exactly what it is. You guys have tough jobs. I don't envy you at all. But you've done a great job with your time spent with Pam being on for 2 full terms, and I know John slightly less than that. So the people of this community should be eternally grateful for all the hard work and dedication that you put in and done to support this community. There are a lot of tough, sometimes weird things that happened here at the city, but because of your leadership and the other people that you work with on the city council and the mayor's leadership, you were able to negotiate our way through and pull us out, at least during my tenure here. I was very thankful to be able to work with you and with all the staff people that I got a chance to see again. It was almost a year ago that I retired, and it's been a busy year for me, but it's been an enjoyable year. Again, I'm thankful that the mayor asked me to come back and say a few words. So I wish you nothing but the best, and John, hope you enjoy your retirement from public service, and I wish you well in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
And I have 2 resolutions, one for Pam and one for John. I would reiterate a few things that Mike said. Before I was elected as mayor back in 2014, I didn't know Pam. We actually met during that election, and also now for for the past 8 years we've served together. And I have to say, not only has she been a great council member and a colleague, but also has become a great friend. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your commitment to our community, as all of the council members here have shown their commitment and their dedication. It is a thankless job at times, but you know, it's also rewarding. And I'm sure you can walk away with a lot of good memories, and hopefully you'll remember those versus the bad. And I'm hoping too that you as an individual have grown, and I'm pretty sure you have, and that you will remember your time here fondly, and also be thankful for it. So thank you very, very much for your time and your commitment to this city. So with that, I have a resolution, so I'm going to first read you John's resolution, and I'm hoping the council will pass it. Whereas John Chamberlain has served 4 years and 8 months as a city council member. John was first appointed to the council in April of 2018. He was then elected in November of 2018 and served from January 2019 through December of 2022. Whereas Councilmember Chamberlain, prior to his council appointment, served on the Planning Commission. Mr. Chamberlain was appointed to the Planning Commission in January of 2016 and served for 2 years, ending in March of 2018, when he was appointed to the City Council. And whereas Councilmember Chamberlain held office during a time when the city was growing, with all the concerns normally associated with a growing community, this was compounded by all the issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And whereas Councilmember Chamberlain has been a supporter of improving city infrastructure for local and state aid road projects, expanding and improving water and sewer infrastructure, supported the construction of the new Southwest Water Tower project, and supported maintaining and improving city parks and trails, Mr. Chamberlain has been instrumental in overseeing the city's budget process and has been fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. And whereas Councilmember Chamberlain has been a supporter of public safety, reasonable development, planning and zoning issues, and financial strategies, and whereas Mr. Chamberlain has been the city's representative to the Pioneer Creek Watershed Commission for the past 4 years, has actively participated in the city's annual strategic planning session, and has been a liaison to the Parks and Planning Commissions. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minnetrista that we thank John Chamberlain for his service to the residents of Minnetrista. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. And next I'll read the resolution for Ms. Mortensen. Have to get the right one. So whereas Pam Mortensen was elected in November of 2014 and again in November of 2018 as city council member, she has served 2 full 4-year terms as an elected city council member from January 2015 through December of 2022. And whereas Councilmember Mortensen held office during a time when the city of Minnetrista was growing, a time of increased staffing needs, and with all the issues normally associated with a growing municipality, of which these were compounded in 2020 with all the issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Councilmember Mortensen has been a supporter of city infrastructure improvements, both local and state aid projects, and has been a strong proponent of the city's pavement management plan. Councilmember Mortensen supported the construction of 2 new water treatment plants, drilling 2 new wells, connecting the southern and central systems, and constructing the city's new Southwest Water Tower. Councilmember Mortensen has been a valued member of the Personnel Committee and played an important role in employment matters such as union negotiations, the 2022 compensation study, and the newly adopted personnel policy. Councilmember Mortensen was a member of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, the city's representative to the Westonk Community and Commerce, and the council liaison to the Planning and Parks Commissions. Whereas Councilmember Mortensen has been a strong supporter of public safety, participating and coordinating the pig races for the annual Trista Day event, Ms. Mortensen has also been a strong proponent for completing the Minnetrista Police Department's gun range and has been involved in discussions on recruitment and retention of police officers in today's tough job market. And whereas Ms. Mortensen's priorities have been to preserve the rural character of the community, support a high level of customer service to residents, maintain controlled and balanced growth, and be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. So now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minnetrista that we thank Pam Mortensen for her service to the residents of the City of Minnetrista. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gregor. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I say something quick? I have to say something. Well, first of all, I can't believe it's actually been 8 years since I stepped behind and was in the seat, have been in the seat. I want to thank all the residents for their trust and their support behind me for the full 2 terms. And I want to thank the incredible city staff and the city consultants for all their hard work and loyalty they put forth to move our great city forward in the direction decided by the council. Last but not least, I want to thank my family for all of the support they give me, and my husband. I think spouses sometimes get a little bit overlooked, but he was always waiting for me every night when I got home with a glass of wine. and he would sit up and wait and listen and talk to me so I could recap the highlights and maybe sleep at night. I have enjoyed meeting and working with so many great people in the city, and it's been an honor serving the city and sitting on the city council. So thank you.
Thank you. So next we have another special, if anybody would like to leave at this point, you can, but you can also stay. I'm sure family and friends would like to have bedtime, right? So next we have special presentation of our public comment on the 23 budget overview and presentation. I believe that's Mr. Grimm.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and yeah, this is another item that Councilmember Mortensen played a big part in, is the budgeting process, and she's always, been very supportive of the city projects, like was just mentioned here, as far as funding infrastructure, and a lot of times it's just a matter of putting it all together or whatever, and that's what the budget will do here. So just going to be a quick slideshow, and then I guess if anyone's here to comment, we will have the public comment portion shortly. So tonight's meeting is to adopt the final tax levy and send that to the county by basically the end of the month here, that December 28th deadline. Just to review our budget timeline, so we met back in August to review the initial presentation. On September 6th, we certified that preliminary tax levy, which is about the 9% increase. We'll talk about what that all sort of funds here in a second. We went through the process of completing the final budget, had discussions pretty much through the fall as far as on the enterprise funds, water, sewers, in addition to the tax levy. The recommendations is to certify the final levy for the same amount as the preliminary levy, to keep it the same, and approve the budget documents as presented in the that were in the packet, and then we'll do that at the in the business portion of the meeting. So overview of the levy, you can see it has the different parts for the general fund, the debt levies, and the road maintenance levy, and we've made some adjustments in the general fund levy to basically incorporate some of the different the compensation study was referenced or whatever, and there's also obviously everyone's dealing with fuel, utilities, all those different type of inflationary things. We're still keeping that commitment to the road maintenance fund at that $875,000, and then you can see the total gross levy of about $5.85 million there, and then some fiscal disparities calculated in to bring the net levy spread to our residents of about $5.695 million, just shy of $5.7 million. It's a trend graph here just showing the blue line's our revenue line, actual for the last 3 years, and then the budget for this year and then next year. You can see for 2023 there's some items as well as personal services, payroll, benefits, as well as just some of the items I referenced earlier, utilities, fuel, that's pushing those amounts closer, right around about a $6 million budget for revenues and expenditures in the general fund. Just a trend analysis of the last about 6 years there. You can see the tax levy has gone, the trend there. I guess the general fund, we had the big surplus in 2020 due to the CARES money, if everyone remembers that, and then we've put that money back into the city. You can see we've spent down some dollars, our budgeted spend downs in each of the last few years here, but we still have a healthy enough fund balance here of around that 45-50% when all is said and done here, probably at the end of 2022, and then looking forward to 2023. This is what probably everyone always wants to know, the tax impacts on them. So we've got a few different examples here as far as, everyone probably realizes values jumped quite a bit. The average valuation increase was, mid-20s, 25-26%. So based on our levy and with about 3% growth in the city, our tax rate calculates out to that about 19%. And you can see that, I guess, our median home in the city's right, it was around 500,000, it's jumped up to about that 630,000, and you can see that's about a 114, so it's about a $9 a month, $10 a month on average for the person in the property that had that average valuation adjustment. Obviously, some people probably saw more of a 15-20% increase. Their taxes didn't go up as much. Some people I know I talked to on the phone had a 35% increase to their property, and then they maybe saw something higher than that. So then just the last couple comments on just some of the different items. You can reference, I guess, some of the labor contracts and the salary adjustments. We also then fund our capital equipment plan through some cash levy, as well as a proposed equipment certificate to wrap into our 2023 financing, and then the funding the pavement management plan, keeping that at the $875,000, knowing that we will need to use some of that for our 2023 road projects debt levy that will start in 2024. We're spending down some, not as much as last year for 2022, but we are looking at spending down about $150,000 of fund balance, which we still will be at a reasonable percentage of around that 44-45% at the end of 2023. And then we are looking at using some municipal state aid funds to finance some of our roads. So I guess in summary, looking for that action that we'll have that discussion later in the meeting. I think we've had good discussions at the council level as far as the levies, our capital improvement plans, our financial management plans. And yeah, I guess if council has any questions right now, or if there's anyone here from the public to speak, but otherwise I think that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this is what we call our Truth in Taxation hearing. What used to be called Truth in Taxation, I think it's now called
Just public comment.
public comment.
Yep.
So if we do have anybody here, I don't see anybody here that's wanting to make public comment, but if you would like to, this would be your time. All right, so council, any questions or comments at this time? We'll be talking about this a little bit more under our business items. So thank you very much, Brian. Good presentation. So next, we have another special presentation this evening. We have Aaron with AE2S here with us. Thank you for coming and thank you for doing this. We're excited to find out what you found out and what you've been doing.
Would you like the clicker, or just want me to? Yep. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you gotta plug in
Oh, yeah.
on the
Oh.
top. What's that? Oh, yeah. Oh, you have to put the little.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Whalen, members of council. Happy to be here today to give you a little bit of an update on
what we've done since we were selected as your water engineer. So I don't have a lot of slides, but just to give you guys a quick update, and if you have any questions at all, please let me know. So current activities to date, we've started working on 3 different task orders with the city. Task order 1 is just a general services task order, so anything that would come up in day-to-day activities with city staff, similar to what we kind of went through this summer regarding water main replacement, would be covered under the general services agreement. So we've handled a few things through that, again, mostly related to the water main replacement and some other kind of just general discussion items on your system. We have task order 2 that was further investigation in wells 3 and well 4, and really looking at the water quality of those wells to see if there's anything we can do in the short term to make them a little bit more valuable to the city to help with higher water demand during the summer. So we're continuing our investigation in those wells. Our water sampling is underway to understand that water quality, so we'll know more soon on kind of the condition of those wells and if they're going to be valuable next summer, if there's anything we can do to make them more operable. And then we have task order 3, which is hydraulic modeling. That's probably the biggest impact in the work that we're doing right now is really looking at the hydraulics of your distribution system to better understand how it operates. We're looking at meter demand throughout the community to understand where you utilize your water and just understand how you transport water across your community and how we can help maybe make that more efficient, and maybe how that might play into your larger growth and treatment in the future. So that hydraulic model is currently being developed. The model is operable, but right now we're working on incorporating additional city data, like again the meter data, equipment data, as far as like pump sizing, things like that the city has on record. So that's all being incorporated in that model as we speak, and we should have a final product here in the next probably month or 2, and then that should be really valuable as we look at next steps for larger decisions on treatment. We'll pause there. Any questions as far as what we've done to date?
Can you maybe go into a little more detail when you say your quality investigation on wells 3 and 4? So
Yeah.
what have you done? What is the issue with those wells, and what is your, let's say, high level idea of what you might be able to do? Because they would have to be used independently of our treatment system. Is that correct?
Correct. So currently wells 3 and 4 do not operate. They're really considered emergency wells. Well 4 pumps sand, so it's really not able to operate, and if you do operate it, it creates issues putting sand in the system. And then well 3 has really poor water quality. So again, we don't use it unless we absolutely have to, but you will see taste and odor, or not taste and color issues in your distribution system if we run that well. So we're looking at, we've done sampling to better understand the chemistry of those wells, to look at any kind of short-term treatment options that would be available, say we wanted to run those wells, or if we wanted to maybe add a chemical feed system to them to help minimize the discoloration if you do run that well. So we're looking at it. It's a pretty short list of things we probably could do, so but we felt like it was a due diligence thing. Let's look at those wells and see if they are truly valuable.
So is it even possible to do something with them, do you think? I mean,
Potentially. It's probably more related to chemical feed.
Okay.
For addressing the color issues. We're probably not looking at installing like filters or something like that. That would be fairly costly.
Okay.
Short-term fix.
but they would be, they would meet Minnesota Department of Health standards?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then when would we know what can be done and when, and what the cost would be?
That's probably something we'll have final results on our analysis this winter. Yeah.
Okay,
So it would be before spring.
okay.
Could either of these wells be used just for irrigation?
Unfortunately, you probably need independent piping to do that, and the cost to put in piping to use them just for irrigation would be fairly costly. So, could you? Yes, but it probably wouldn't be the most efficient use of those wells.
Okay. Right?
So moving forward, I believe you guys have for approval tonight is preliminary design for 2 new wells, wells 8 and 9. So as part of that preliminary design, we'll be doing a hydrogeologic evaluation just to understand the groundwater in that area. You've already done test wells, so we're confident in the water in that area, but we want our hydrogeologist to investigate the entire area a little bit more just to make sure that there's no long-term issues with installing wells in that area. In addition to that, we would do a capacity analysis, so we're confident there's water there, but we'd like to understand a little bit more about how much water we could produce out of these wells. And then finalizing placement for them, and then all of that will be rolled up into a technical memorandum that would provide final site selection for these wells. So that would be considered a preliminary design, and then we move into final design after that investigation is complete.
So when you talk about capacity analysis, are you talking about how many gallons you can pump per minute, or are you talking about total capacity in the aquifers?
Maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
But primarily how many gallons per minute that well can produce.
I thought they did that already.
I think it'd be just a confirmation of
Okay.
that with the hydrogeologic analysis.
Okay.
So that would be task order 4, and then what's happening next would be task order 5. So that's where, as our team wraps up the hydraulic model and better understands your distribution system, we'll be moving into more of a larger study on water plant placement, a little bit of city growth analysis to understand how your distribution system will accommodate growth within the community, and how the various growth in different zones might impact hydraulics of your distribution system. We'll look at potential treatment processes to accommodate the treatment goals that you guys have, primarily for iron and manganese. So we'll review different treatment options with Gary and his team. We'll look at the water plant sites. So there's already a site that I think is of interest, but we want to evaluate that and how that plays into the larger picture of your distribution system and treatment overall. And then ultimately sizing of that water plant, and then just other hydraulic impacts. I put on here a potential north and south hydraulic connection. I'm not saying that we're going to do that, but I'm just saying that we want to understand how these systems operate together, so we understand how we can best leverage the assets you currently have to serve your community. So all of that will be kind of wrapped up into an overall water system treatment study that will occur after the hydraulic model is complete.
Okay. All right.
So this is just a brief overview of timeline. So this winter we'll be working on the preliminary design for wells 8 and 9. Moving to spring through fall of next year, we'll be executing task order 4, which is again that basis of design analysis for a water plant and your overall water system growth. Next summer we'll also be looking at the final design of wells 8 and 9 after we get through preliminary design this winter. And then ultimately the goal would be that we start construction on those 2 new wells towards the tail end of next year into 2024. And we also would start on design for your final water plant towards the tail end of 2023 into 2024. So that would be design, and then after that we move into construction.
How long does the well construction process take?
Typically, I guess it really depends on if we have a well house or a hitless unit. But drilling is probably 6 to 9 months. If you put a well house on top of it, it's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months on top of that. So a year, ballpark. And that's it. Any questions on timeline?
I'm assuming when you're talking about a year, it doesn't take a year to drill the well. It's just all of the processes and everything and permitting and all that you have to go
Right.
through.
To get a contractor on site,
Yeah.
do the drilling.
Mhm.
And wells are hard because every well has a different amount of development that needs to happen. Some take a long time, some develop fairly quickly. So that it's a range
Mhm.
depending on the well.
Okay. So when would you anticipate both wells and the new treatment plant being online and up and running? Just kind of an estimate.
So our goal would be to have the new wells up and running by the end of, or sometime in 2024. So those wells will be available and we can sample them so we'd understand the water quality. And then we'd be able to incorporate that into our design for the water plant. So that's why I have in there kind of design of the water plant happening about the same time as the well construction. So we'd be able to at least get the water quality data from the well construction and incorporated that into the design. Ultimately, we have the wells available before the water plant was, construction started on the water plant. But ultimately, the water plant would probably be a 1.5 year construction. So if you finish design sometime in 2024, you're probably looking at, say, early 2026 by the time your water plant will be operational.
So let's just say we have the 2 new wells now. Can they be putting water into our system?
Yes, we could
because
design them so they could pump into the system.
Because our water treatment facility is only capable of, 1,100 gallons per minute. So how would that enhance or expand our abilities?
And that's something we'll want to incorporate in the basis of design analysis as we look at phasing of this. Is once we build the wells, we can design those so they can pump directly into your distribution system.
Okay, so they wouldn't go into the treatment filtration.
Your treatment system currently cannot accommodate
Right,
more-
that's what I was
more
thinking.
wells.
Okay,
So you could design these wells so they could pump directly into the system without filtration, so they would be summer demand wells when needed,
Mhm.
but they would have iron and manganese in them, so you would see some of that color again. And then as we build the water plant, those wells would then be transitioned to the water plant.
Mhm.
So again, we need to look at some of that phasing as we get through the basis of design analysis, but those are things we want to take into consideration as we try to balance the up and coming summer demand with additional infrastructure.
would it be mixed with the filtered water? I'm
Most
assuming?
likely, yes.
Okay.
If you did not treat it. you
Yep.
would use it.
Okay. Any questions? Other questions? All right. Thank you very much,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So that concludes our special presentations. And there's nobody signed up for persons to be heard, so we'll move on to consent agenda items. Are there any we need to remove? All right, because it's a long list, so bear with me. So first consent agenda item, approve work session meeting minutes from November 14th, 2022. Approve our city council regular meeting minutes from November 14th, 2022. A resolution to approve claims. D is a resolution to approve polling places for the 2023 elections. Is that correct, 2023 elections?
We have to do it every year.
Okay.
Whether you have an election or not.
All right, thank you. And then a resolution to approve the 2023 non-union pay table and subsequent compensation adjustments. F is approve our updated personnel policy. G is approve MOUs for maintenance of cafeteria benefits in 2023 with local unions. H is approve our updated data practices policy. I hope you all had a chance to read all those pages. And I, 19, approve our First Amendment to license agreement for material storage yard site with Mid-Continent Communications. J is an ordinance to approve code text amendment for Chapter 12, Section 1-2, would be 1210.01, 1210.11, and 1210.13 regarding liquor license application requirements. And then also approve a publication of ordinance number 480 by title and summary. K is a resolution to approve and finalize the budgeted transfers for 2022 and authorize actual transactions. And I is a approved State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with the City of Minnetrista on behalf of its City Attorney and Police Department. M is accept improvements and authorize final payment for the 2022 overlay project. N is accept resignation of Peter Vickery from our Planning Commission. O is accept resignation of John Sturgis from the Planning Commission. Approve a front, P is approve a front yard setback variance at 5495 Ridgewood Cove. And Q is a resolution to approve the preliminary plat of Halsted Hill. R is a resolution to approve task order number 4 with AE2S for the preliminary design of wells number 8 and 9. And S is authorized execution of electrical easement in Woodland Cove, 8th edition. So it'd be A through S. Is there a motion to approve those consent agenda items?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much again, Aaron, for coming. Next, we do have a public hearing. This is our 2023 fee schedule, and we'll want to adopt it by ordinance number 479. Who wants to take that? Brian?
Yes, yeah, Madam
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, yeah, that starts on, after all those consent agenda pages, I think it starts like on page 417 in the packet. That tells you how long the packet was, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any, pretty much, we went through a lot of the different fee schedule changes during the week work sessions as far as the utility rates, as far, water, sewers, stormwater recycling. We've got some minor adjustments to those flat fees in the sewer, stormwater, in recycling. We've got the incorporated the utility adjustments for water per the previous council discussions. Otherwise, there's some other adjustments in the public safety fees, and those are all notated with the strike-throughs and new amounts that are shown in the packet there. I don't know if I want to open up to council first, or if we want to have the public hearing, or I guess I'll leave that up to.
I'll do the public hearing real quick. I think that'll be pretty quick. So I'll open up the public hearing. If anybody is here wishing to address the 2023 fee schedule, you can do so at this time. I don't think anybody's here for that. So I'm going to close the public hearing for the fee schedule. I'll take it back to council. Question?
I know you guys talked about the water last time. I wasn't here. I would like to reiterate that I would like to put the commercial and the schools on the same tiered structure going forward. I know we talked about, it's been talked about a bunch of times, and every time it comes up, there's always pushback to delay because of the school budgeting, but the school doesn't set their budget until the summer, so that would be 6 months, give or take, to get used to the idea. And they do have the well that they're going, hopefully after talking with Jasper, they'll be able to use for watering their fields, which would alleviate a lot of their water usage and make it more palatable for the lower tiers. I just feel like we shouldn't wait to see if they get the well up and running and then change it. We should change it now and then kind of push them to get it up and running so they can use that for their irrigation.
Okay, so the commercial rates are, let's see, $33.89 is the base rate, and for commercial as well as school.
Not the rates, the tiers. The
Oh, okay.
gallons.
Okay, and what?
Combine the school and the commercial into one and put the school at the commercial.
So what does that do? Do you know what that does?
Madam Mayor, members of council, if I may, it all depends on what their usage is. So a large portion of the school's bill revenue that we receive is related to irrigation. If they would get that irrigation well online and hooked up to a couple of the areas that they use a lot of the water, their usage would likely be cut in half. So it's hard to say. We can make some assumptions. If they wouldn't get their irrigation, the commercial rates would likely drive their total amount up by about 400%. If that would be the case and we would go down that route, we'd likely revisit that in the future. So you kind of have the staff recommendation to move forward with it the way it is, or you have the other option to kind of wait or take action today on it, and then if let's say the school doesn't get their irrigation well online by the summer, then we'd likely bring it back to revisit those rates and likely recommend bringing back those school rates, because that would increase their bills significantly with the city.
So what if we put this on our agenda, because they're, I think, in the middle of their budget right now, because their budget runs, I think, July or June or July to June or July. So what if we put this, what if we kept it like this for now, but then brought it back in May prior to the irrigation timing, normally like June May, June, July is your irrigation. And then take a look at this. I would hate to hit them with a 400% increase.
Well, we wouldn't be hitting them with it. They haven't set their budget for next summer yet. They're still operating. The rate increase for quarter one and quarter two wouldn't hit them that hard. They don't use that much water based on what Brian has sent me. And this way they have to make their adjustments based on us. Why are we waiting to wait and see what they do?
What do you mean they have to make their adjustments based on
They either
this?
have to get their irrigation system up and running,
Right.
or plan their budget for appropriate water usage. I mean, they are the biggest user of our water, and they are paying less than our residents. I mean, their top tier is 900,000 gallons. That's,
Mhm.
I mean, in quarter three on one of their lots, they use 3.4 million gallons. So they have a good incentive to get the irrigation system up and running by quarter three, or they can come back to us and say, hey, we have these issues, this is what happened, can you readjust it? But why should we wait and see what they do? And I mean, I've been asking for the last year and a half to readjust these rates or tiers, and you always say, let's wait. Well, their budgeting is different than ours, so when's a good time to tell them we're adjusting the tiers?
So you want to adjust the tiers, and so between 0 and 80,000 gallons versus the 0 to 700,000.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty substantial increase, even without irrigation. Do we know what it would?
Well, the
Create.
one billing for quarter one, they used 5,140, so I'm assuming that's one of the buildings. I don't know, I would assume the 5905 Sunnyfield, they used 400,000 gallons in quarter one, so I don't know what building that is. The 5910 Sunnyfield, they used 680 gallons, so I mean that's fine. Quarter one for, I'm assuming the football fields, 5860, they didn't use any water. Quarter one for 5901 Sunnyfield, they didn't use any water.
Because it's by irrigation.
Yeah, and 5901 Sunnyfield, I would guess is the superintendent building, whatever that one's called, used 18,000. So quarter one, with the exception of this one building, which maybe is the high school with the pool.
I wonder if it's the ice. I don't know.
What was the address?
5905. I mean, that's the only one that would be above the 0 to 80 in quarter one or quarter two.
Do you know which one that is?
I think that's
Probably
the
Ace.
the school campus, because it shows up 5905 is the same as, zoom out here a touch.
And how many gallons was that?
434,210.
So they would then be in the
Top tier.
top tier for that. Was that quarter one and quarter two?
Yes.
Okay, so what would that mean in terms of difference?
Just for that one, I don't know off the top of my head what that would be, but for the last, I'm looking at 2021 complete data, I guess. I don't know. We'd have to calculate it out
okay.
to figure out what that tier would fall just for that 1 meter. But in general, if it would fall in line with all the usage, it would be about a 4 times increase in their bill, which would be
Right.
about 100. It'd get them up to about 160,000. But that's not taking out anything for irrigation on the other side, which is roughly half of their billing. So it's kind of a moving target. We need a little time to figure out those individual bills for the individual meters.
Thoughts?
Have you had conversation with the school on this end?
I have, and that's where we got the information that they're hopefully going to have that irrigation well online for the bulk of their irrigation. Some of the getting across campus in some of the areas might be a little bit more problematic. But for the football field, that one would be online. But their idea is to get everything online that they can and use that well versus our treated water. So, and the timeline for that was the spring of 2023, is what was told to me.
But for the campus, for the high school building or whatever itself, that wouldn't really play into the irrigation system.
I think very little,
Yeah.
if at all.
So we're looking at a, what, 400% increase? That's pretty significant.
What dollar amount?
That's what
Talking like
we don't know.
100,000, 500,000?
But
be
if they
about-
get their irrigation system up and running, their summer bill would be next to nothing. And if we're eventually going to put them on the commercial, then this gives them 6 months, again, to set their budget for next year and prepare for it.
Okay, so in the land of diplomacy, can we figure out the dollar number? And can we talk to them again so that we initiate conversation with them?
Sure, I
Rather
mean,
than just slamming them with it.
right.
But how is this slamming them with it? Our residents, we raised the rates on them for quarter 3.
But not by
But
400%.
not up by 400%.
No, but to some people, depending on how much water they used, they got slammed. We didn't talk to each individual resident and say, hey, we might do this. Why are we treating the school district with kid gloves about doing an increase?
Because we don't know what the actual dollar impact will be on them at all. We have no idea. We don't know whether it's huge and they can't even begin to do it. We don't know anything. We don't have enough information to work on that.
Well, we didn't have it for our residents.
Well, but the difference
Unless
is,
we did.
the difference is we raised the rates last year by 4%. And then the third tier, we raised it, do you know how much?
Percentage-wise, it was a high amount.
I think it was like 42,
Yeah.
something like that.
So, and here we're raising the tiers and we're raising the rate. So I'm just saying, we are raising it, and they know that. I mean, we've told them an increase is coming. So I wouldn't mind changing the tiers a little bit, but I'm not sure that it would be fair to go from, it says here, so tier 3 is over 900,000 gallons, and tier 3 for the commercial is over 150,000 gallons. So that's a huge difference. I mean, even if, so I guess I'd like to know what the dollar amount difference would be for Q1 and Q2, so we'd have to figure that out. What we could do is bring that back maybe at the January work session.
Yes. That's
So-
what needs to be done, because we're not operating with enough information.
Right.
I have no idea when it comes to an increase like that, what that means to them in terms of their other expenses. I have no idea. And so we need to find that out, because the points that are made are very, very well taken
Sure.
and very well supported. But I don't wanna just hit them with it at a 400% increase. Go ahead.
I brought this up before. It just keeps getting kicked down the road. I don't, what tier amount would you see as appropriate for their tiers to be?
Okay, and like I said, well,
Let me ask you this, Brian. Have the tiers changed? The gallons?
The gallons have been the same probably for about 10 years.
All right,
Commercial
so
on the school.
if you were to change the tiers by 10%, let's say, or 20%, so you keep 0 to 700, maybe, or you made that maybe a 20% change, that might be okay. But to go from 150,000 gallons down to, from 900,000 down to 150, that's huge. So maybe if there's something in between,
yes,
it might be
that's what
more
I'm thinking.
more
Well,
reasonable.
I've suggested that before. Adjust both the tiers into one and combine them into one. You said to wait.
Okay,
Well, I don't see why we keep waiting.
but we are making these adjustments now.
I mean, the discussion at the last council work session when we talked about it was to, and I know you weren't able to make it, was to adjust the dollar amounts that was the consensus of the four that were there. So, I mean, I'm just saying, so, I mean, we as staff are only gonna do what the council tells us to do, so
No,
this is,
we-
we
Yeah, no,
presented
right.
what.
No,
of
yeah, I
course,
know that.
here's-
No.
I know, I listened.
so-
No, I don't think she's saying
No,
anything
no,
against
no,
staff.
No, I know what
Um,
you did.
So anyhow,
Because I mean, I guess we would need time to analyze a little bit versus I wouldn't want to throw something off the cuff, and it'd probably be good to talk to the school district, because I think Jasper's had conversations with Mr. Borg and said your bill might go up $5,000 next year. Well, this could be, I mean, 120,000 versus 5,000 is a big difference.
right.
That's what we need to sort of
And
find, maybe
that's my point.
a happy
My point is
medium.
that you can't just, can't slam somebody with that much extra.
Well, we can, then we could adjust the commercial tiers up to 0 to 250. And then 250 to 4. And then over 400,000. I mean, I guess, again, this has been brought up by me several times this year, and it just keeps getting, we'll talk about it later. Talk
Well,
about it later.
but we did talk about it, okay? So unfortunately, you weren't able to be there, and I get that. I'm not, there's no blame there. But we did talk about it, and this is what the four of us came up with. And I think what we're saying here is, let's pass this today and bring it back for another discussion in January, where we can have those figures that I think at least Ann and I would like to see. And then we can have that discussion, and we can make that change in January. It doesn't have to be effective. So whatever we can change this at any time during the year. It doesn't have to be at the beginning.
Okay. And the point that you made about putting pressure on them to get their irrigation system up and running so that they will move faster. I don't have any feel for what that means to them or whether they can. Do you, Jasper, in any of your conversations have a feel for that?
I don't know if they need pressure. They're working on it. They know that the ROI is pretty short. They're gonna with the current rates, they're gonna save $25,000 a year. So if you can imagine what the irrigation system would cost, like that's what your ROI is. So I think they already have pressure to make this move to try to save money. So I don't know if the pressure's needed. I mean, I think they're working on it. I'm confident that they are.
And again, timeline, do you think that they'll have it done by the third quarter?
I don't
You don't
probably
know?
have
It's
probably have
not ready
enough
now.
information. They're telling me yes, but I don't know anything other
But they
than
were
that.
telling you yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I do like the idea of if we're gonna do anything, make the commercial in school the same, that we make go like 0 to, because you got to treat commercial, in my opinion, in schools differently than a residential property. A residential property is dumping water on their lawn. A school is serving our school children, I guess. Our commercial is making product or a restaurant. That's how I guess I would look at it. So.
Well, especially if they come off of the irrigation, then it's all for their buildings that they need. So, right, and so we can take a look at that, and that's what I would do. And I'm not trying to kick the can down the road, Kathleen. It's just that this is what was discussed. This was what we thought we were going forward with. So I have no problem bringing this back in January and discussing it back again in January with the numbers so that we can see some actual numbers.
And your ultimate goal, because this will be resolved within 6 months if they're able to get their irrigation system up and running. So is your issue that you're upset about the residents being hit with the price that they have?
My issue is when we adjusted the residents, I asked that we come back and look at the water and commercial and the schools and make it into one, and to readjust their tiers. Listening to the meeting in November, Lisa again recommended waiting till January to adjust the gallons and the tiers. The school is the biggest user of water, and they are not paying as much as the residents got hit, and the residents took a rate increase this past summer, and the school and the commercial didn't.
So weren't the adjustments made to all of the categories?
No,
No.
in March and April, we were more, I think, wanting to try to get, I mean, the vast majority of our usage is residential's 93% or whatever our usage. So I think we adjusted the residential trying to get conservation to take place this spring, summer, and I think the plan was to, you know, school and, I mean, even the school uses, is it 3.5% of our overall water usage? So it's really, in the grand scheme of things, not that large, but it was, let's come back and look at, in commercial, we don't have a ton either, so let's look at that at some point, you know, in the future. And I think what we did in November was, well, let's at least adjust the dollar amounts on the commercial and schools, and I guess if there's an appetite to change the gallons or the tiers, then we can do that sometime between now and the first quarter billing also.
Okay. That's kind of what I think we should do then, if you'd like. I'm not willing to change these now because we don't have any real numbers in front of us, and I'd like to see those numbers. And I'm fine if the council decides to want to change the water and commercial, or put commercial and schools together, that's fine. And changing those tiers, I just need to look at those numbers.
Well, actually, we all need to look at those numbers, and we need to do something that's not quite as severe as
Well-
you're proposing, but more than this. So, yes.
So I would suggest we pass this now with the clear understanding that we'll bring this back January 9th at our work session for discussion, and in the meantime, bring back all the numbers that can give us a clear understanding of what that means.
Because I think it should be set at a reasonable, because I think some of those numbers you said 400,000 for the school, so I think 0 to 80 is a little low when you're looking at that, but maybe 0 to 250 is the right spot, and 250 to 400 and 400, I don't know, or 350, whatever, I guess. And we can make this, this doesn't even need the public hearing is needed because we have the land use fees and some of the reimbursable stuff, so this, we'd obviously adopt this ordinance, pass the resolution for title and summary, and then we just have to amend the ordinance again in January, February, whatever,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
We can definitely bring those calculations back and kind of show, I think we have the scenarios, you know,
Mhm.
of what it could be.
Okay.
And then I think Brian and I could work together and maybe Q and Councilmember Refkin to come up with like a tier structure
Mhm.
that we think is what we would want to propose. That's maybe a blended between the school and the commercial rates we currently have.
Okay, all right. Okay? All right. So are there any other discussion items on the fee schedule? Okay. Hearing none, then is there a motion to adopt the 2023 fee schedule as presented, again with the caveat they're going to talk about water again in January?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Then adopting or resolution to approve the publication of ordinance number 479 by title and summary. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. So we'll move on to business items. 2023 budget approvals.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So this is on page 429 of the packet, and this is a reflection of the items that were just talked about, or the tax levy in the public comment that was a little bit ago. The page 30 is the resolution to adopt the final 22 tax levy collectible in 2023 in the total gross amount of $5,854,229. I guess I'll stand if there's any questions from the council or any other further discussion.
I don't.
We discussed this over.
Yeah. All right. Motion to approve resolution number 206, which is adopting the final 22-23 tax levy collectible in 23.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. And then we have adopt and approve the 23 budgets, the general fund, the special revenue, the debt service, and the CIP funds and enterprise.
And that's reflected on page 435 of the packet. You can see the total revenues are about 21.5 million, but projected budget total expenditures about 22.2 million. Obviously, some of the largest expenditures is our 2023 street projects we're planning for, pushes it up from what we've seen our budget levels in previous years. That's all been discussed and accounted for, so to be looking for, if there's any other discussion on those, otherwise we'd be looking to adopt the 2023 budgets.
Nope, I don't think so. We've gone over it a number of times. So is there a motion to adopt resolution number 207, which is approving our 23 budgets?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And then there's the meeting calendars, and I think I spoke with Ms. Refkin earlier. I think there's two we were looking at previously. Rather, when a holiday occurs on a Monday, that's a regular council meeting, we generally move it to Tuesday, but we've asked if we could move it to Wednesday. So there's two of those in 2023. There'd be one in February and then one in September, I believe. So can we make that change? That would be, I don't have the calendar in front of me. What page is it on? I'm sorry.
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
And then the only other question I have, so it'd be February
20.
20
To the 22nd?
Yes, right. And then in September, it would be the 19th, is that
No,
correct?
fifth.
The 5th.
I'm sorry,
the
yes,
6th.
yes, thank you. It would be the 6th. And then the other question I have before we pass the calendar thing, I think what we could do or should do, I think by our code it says Tuesdays. Can we change that wording and make it like, say, Tuesday or Wednesday, or be more flexible?
You can. I talked with the city attorney today about this. You have the ultimate discretion to set your council via resolution. So as long as you're doing it via resolution, you can do it. It's ambiguous because it does say that if the council meeting falls on a holiday, on a Monday, it will be the next Tuesday. So we've talked about this. As long as you adopt it by resolution, you have it. We could probably clarify it. So we have that on my list to potentially bring forward an ordinance amendment to just clarify it, to give us a little more flexibility when we set our schedule.
Okay,
So,
all right.
And Sarah and Allison are both clear on Wednesdays?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, actually works better for me because I always have meetings that fall on Tuesdays.
Right.
I would have to check, but I can certainly, we'll have representation no matter what.
Good question. All right. So with that, then, is there a motion to adopt the 2023 city meetings calendar with those two changes?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? But that was Ms. McGregor. Okay. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. And next we'll move on to our city appointments. We just, in our work session, we interviewed several applicants for our park commission, for our planning commission. And the council decided that for our parks, we would reappoint Elise Fogel as our park commissioner, and then was it Kelly Phillips? Phillips, and Kelly Phillips as a new park commissioner. So we still would have an open park commission seat, and then we also have one more alternate open seat on our parks. So with that, do I have a motion to appoint Elise Fogel and Kelly Phillips as park commissioners to our park commission?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Refkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. The only other thing I'd say is if Sarah Hussein would like to remain on as a park commissioner until we can get that filled, she's technically still a commissioner. I think she might be able to do that, or would be willing to do that. So we had an applicant that is currently a seated parks commissioner, and she will now be appointed to our planning commission. But to make sure that we have a quorum, I'd like to make sure we have enough people there. So with that, and then we also interviewed applicants for a planning commission, and the council decided to appoint Sarah Hussein, Mike Kirkwood. It's getting late. There's too many names. Mike Kirkwood and Heather Charles as our planning commissioners, and Mark Hensley, is it? Henning, thank you, as our one of our alternates. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor signify with aye. I'm sorry.
Weren't we putting Zach as an alternate?
Okay, if he wanted to be. I mean, we could appoint him and then just check and make sure. So, okay, I'm sorry, thank you. And last name was Zach. Do you know what the last name?
Gangstead.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be Mark and Zach as the two alternates. Thank you. The other thing is, are all of these these are not all 4-year terms?
No.
So which ones are 4 years and which ones are 2 years? Are there two 2-year terms and 1 4-year term?
It says it on there. Yep. For planning, it should be the next one, right there.
A
They got
1, a 2, and a
staggered
3.
dates, right?
So there's 1, 1.
So my question is, we need to designate which one goes where. So the December 31st, 2026, I would say Mike Kirkwood. Okay, and then the December 25 would be Sarah, and then December 24 would be Heather. Is that okay? All right, so with that, and then the alternates are the same, so there would be no change. So they're filling the position of
John and
John
Peter.
and Peter. That's why they only have shorter terms. Okay. You were giving me a little quizzical look, so I just wanted to make sure you understood what we're
Yeah,
doing.
I was just trying to decide how you decided with those particular people for those particular dates.
Do you, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but do you have an,
Well, mine matter to them.
okay. Good point. We don't have Sarah here. So let's leave it like this.
Okay.
And then,
And then they get to say something to you after the fact?
right,
Okay.
yeah, they get to complain. I've already told people they can complain to the new council members.
Okay.
So the December 31st, 2024, it would just be reapplying then.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
And generally, when somebody reapplies, they're
Okay.
reappointed.
All right, fine.
So with that then, was there a motion and a second?
So moved.
So a motion has been made as stated. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Did you get all of that, David, so we know which ones are which there? All right, thank you. Next, we move on to a resolution. We need to call a public hearing on the intention to issue general obligation street reconstruction plan bonds and the proposal to adopt a street reconstruction finance plan. Which one, who's doing that?
That's me.
That's you again?
And
Okay.
I think I promised I got the last business item of the night, right? Or I think.
Yes, you do. Okay.
So yeah, this is just as it's outlined in the memo on page 444. So we have the mill and overlay projects are part of more of the chapter 475 type projects versus we've got the reconstruction and reclamation projects are the chapter 429. So as part of this chapter 475, we have to call for a public hearing, and we'd like to do that as like our next council meeting is on January 9th, 2023, and Todd Hagan will be at that meeting too with others to just explain the process a little in further in detail. But what was included in the packet was sort of the draft plan and some of the different timelines as far as adopting, going through the process to have those bonds meet all the requirements for that financing. So I guess I'll open it up for any questions for council, but otherwise this would just be to, we'd have the published notice in the paper, I think for December 17th is what we've got it scheduled for. And bond councils looked at the resolution, made a couple minor tweaks to the notice and stuff, and we'll get all that in the posted and published, and will be good for that public hearing. So.
Okay, and is Gary or staff, who's gonna be putting together the plan, the street, what is it called, PS?
Oh,
Yeah.
the street reconstruction
Right.
plan. So, I mean, the I guess the bones of the plan are in the packet. It's sort of got the map of the project area and stuff.
But
so,
we have to have a 5-year plan, is my
at lea-
understanding from reading through the packet.
Yeah, I mean,
So this is our 1-year plan, this is for 23, but I'm under the impression that we need to have a 5-year plan, or not?
Well, I could certainly consult with Mr. Hagan on that. The information included in that report we provided to him. If council recalls, we did talk a while back about getting, you authorized staff and WSB to put together a 10-year proposed CIP, which I think for the next 5 years, we have that.
Okay.
Gary and I just met on that on Friday. So we could certainly provide something like that in a draft form. It certainly doesn't tie the council's hands as far as what you need to do for the next 5 years. It's more of a guiding document.
Right, and I understand that can change. I just want to make sure that, my understanding from reading the information in the packet, that we needed to have this plan. And so I figured with what we've been doing, and the direction that we're going in, we would be okay. But, okay. That's all I have.
Yep.
Other questions?
yeah, I think the pertinent item is to have the 2023 projects identified. I think I know the draft plan even just says 24 to 27 is sort of open, or open, but I think these are items we have to just, I don't know, and Sarah would probably be able to speak better to it as far as it's just a matter of the requirements to issue this type of financing.
Okay. So when the public hearing should be?
January 9th.
January 9th?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So, any other questions? So we'll call the public hearing for January 9th on the intent to issue general obligation street reconstruction plan bonds and the proposal to adopt a street reconstruction finance plan. And we would do that on the 9th?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
So move.
all right, thank you. All those in second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. So we'll have a agenda item and a public hearing on the 9th. Then we move on to staff reports. When you come back with that, it was in our packet, but I also want to talk about total costs payments that we're going to have to be making, because this is just for the $1.9 million. But then we also have another bond, the 429 bond that we're going to be doing. So I want to see the numbers together.
Yep, and we can bring
So-
updated, basically that $8 million we're projecting that,
Right.
the chip 429, 475, and then also the water.
The water.
revenue for
Well,
water
but the
main.
water revenue, or the water bond is going to be revenues.
Yes, it won't
The
be tax
revenues,
levy.
it's not a tax levy.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
want to see the tax levy impact.
Yeah, we can bring the total bond sale with the funding sources for the
Okay.
annual payments. So
Yeah,
we can
just
bring
so we
that.
clearly understand that. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to administrative reports.
Yes, Mayor Whalen, members of City Council. I just have two brief items. City Council pay will be increasing as of 1/1 of 2023. The monthly stipend or payment to City Council members will go from 300 to 400, and for the mayor, 400 to 500. So that's effective.
Wow, we're going to get rich.
Yeah.
Sure, when I leave.
Yeah. So this was all set into motion back in 2020. So this is, and we'll have this conversation likely in 2023 or next year for effective 1/1/2025 if we want to make any adjustments. So we'll go through a little exercise and compare other communities.
Okay.
And then lastly, the format that you see on the agenda will be changing effective January of 2023. as you'll see, every item has a resolution associated with it. We've worked with legal counsel and just to make sure that we're not, I guess, overburdening staff on writing all of these resolutions that aren't required. What we're going to do is have a system where we have motions. So like for claims, you'll see a motion to approve claims, not a resolution. That's an item that we don't need to have a resolution for. And everything else will be motions. Everything that we need resolutions for, we'll still have resolutions. So it's a little bit different way of tracking it. We'll work with Don and our legal counsel to make sure we're doing it right.
What's the difference? I mean, you make a motion and you second it and you vote. So what's the difference?
On your end, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all. On our end, quite a bit as far as tracking and getting all the resolutions signed, so that the mayor won't have to sign all of these resolutions.
Oh, good.
Motions
That's
don't need to be
good.
signed. So administratively, it's a little bit more streamlined.
Okay.
Council-wise, you won't notice a difference other than just the format change.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
All right. Any other staff reports? All right. And then council reports. Anything?
Nope.
So I did have the privilege of driving last week during that wonderful snowstorm. I had a morning meeting. It was the quarterly meeting with Dean Phillips and the mayors in his district. And so it was interesting. The mayor-elect for Mound and the mayor-elect for Minnetonka Beach were also there. And they were talking about getting some federal and or state funding for their water treatment plants. And I'm like, okay, hello, we're here too. So I've talked with Jasper and I suggested, so a couple things. I did mention as well that we also need a water treatment plant, and if they qualify, we should too. But I talked to Jasper, and there's always strength in numbers. So I thought if the mayor of each of these cities and the administrators would get together and maybe formulate some a letter, also kind of do a coalition, if you will, to try and get our state and or federal representatives on board to support any kind of funding from them. So I don't know if it'll go anywhere. I'm sure that they would be interested as well as us. I also recommended that we contact our newly elected, or their elect, whatever, representatives, our new Senator Kelly Morrison and our new Senator Representative Andrew Myers, to see if they would be of help as well. So we'll be working on that and see what we can do in that department. And then next week, the chief and I will be attending the Northwest League meeting. It's in the evening. I want to make sure it's in the evening. So it's just recognizing our police and their service to our communities. And then there's the Rotary Luncheon. Are you attending?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's on the 20th. I'll probably be going to that. So with that, and we won't have any more meetings, I don't think, until January 9th. We will have 2 new council members sworn in, so we'll have a special little event. Bring your families. We'll kind of do the same thing. Bring your families. We'll welcome you, and you will be sworn in officially, legally, prior to our work session, but then we will have a public swearing in at 7 o'clock. So be sure you bring your photo cameras and family for that event. And other than that,
Okay. I have a fire meeting with Mound on Thursday.
okay,
I will be attending it.
good. All right, thank you. With that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. So we're keeping our status quo, 4 women and 1 man.